Hello guys, this is Man Discovers. You have finally made it to the channel where honesty really is the best policy.
Welcome to the channel.
Today's review, boy oh boy, I've been waiting a long time for this one. To take you guys back, for people who've been watching this channel, I released some videos back in February 2021 about the KEF KC62 and how I expressed my thoughts and feelings about this subwoofer. Now, for some reason, I got a lot of shtick about these videos because people expected me to only make videos if I actually had my hands on the subwoofer and review it like that. And take into account that at this time you couldn't even buy the sub, so these videos I made, they were just about letting you guys know what I think.
Why people so stupid? Why?
Well, I am a man of my word, and with me here today I have the KEF KC62 in all its glory. Here with me today, I have the KEF KC62 in all its glory.
KEF KC62, I finally got you. You caused man a lot of trouble. After this video, man can handle you like savage.
And we're back. Sorry about that guy, he makes regular appearances on this channel for whatever reason, I don't know. Specifications. Let's talk about specifications. Now, I love a good spec sheet, especially when it has been properly filled in. I thought that was quite funny because a lot of materials I've read doesn't seem to be filled in quite right, but
they don't like your jokes.
Well, that's kind of heartbreaking.
Specifications.
Specifications. So 1000 watt RMS. So that's split into two sides because we have two woofers on the KEF KC62. They're both active. 500 watts RMS per side. 6.5 inch woofers as well with the P-Flex surround. That's inspired by origami. And then we have the Unicore magnet system, which is, I think, a first of its kind. Very impressive bit of engineering there. And yeah, basically what it means is that rather than two separate magnets on each woofer, the KEF KC62 has one magnet that controls both. So pretty impressive stuff. Also, what we have is another very impressive spec. And it suggests that the KEF KC62 can dive deep down to 11 Hertz.
Estaba la paellera agarrada entre las piedras de Chipiona del faro, y cuando entro en el restaurante me ve el cocinero con una paellera y adentro la vende paellera. ¡Asómate, mira dónde llega el agua! Llegaba el agua hasta el restaurante, había subido la marea.
I tell you what, well, specifications are a good thing. I've made at least 3 videos on the KEF KC62 and I think I have covered specs in a lot of detail. So if you want to watch those other videos, go ahead and watch them on my channel. We're going to move on to something a little bit more interesting now, and that is how easy is the KEF KC62 to clean. I'm not joking. How easy is it
How easy is it to clean?
Now this SVS at the moment, it is pristine. It looks like really nice, very good condition, but it's a bit annoying when it reflects stuff. And so you can see all my crap basically over there. But obviously on the floor it won't be much of a problem. However, this sort of finish is like, you know, like a glossy piano, ebony finish pianos. Because I used to, you know, when I was younger, play the piano, I'm quite experienced when it comes to polishing these sorts of surfaces. And one of the best things you can use is just window lean, and basically it works. Don't know if it's the best thing for the finish, but that's what I used to use when polishing the pianos. But this finish here, as you can see, look, I've just touched that, and the fingerprints, it looks like they're going away, but they are there. And I've tried to get these out earlier, and it is very difficult. You know, you must need some sort of degreaser or something like that. So that was quite difficult. And, you know, I'm paying a bit of attention to how to clean these subs, but if they don't look good, then it's pretty pointless, isn't it? You know, most people buy these so it looks good in their space. So that, I think that's quite an important thing. But one thing to note also is the SVS is more or less flat at the back. The buttons are kind of like more or less flush with the back plate, whereas the KC62, by comparison, it has these big knobs at the back and all these switches. So if you're trying to clean back here, it's a bit more fiddly from my experience just now, because you've got to try and get in and out of these nooks and crannies. And when you do that, you might jog the dial or something like that. So I thought, as soon as I did this earlier, I thought, well, that could be potentially a problem. And look, I mean, you know, don't touch it. At first, I thought this was going to be a better finish, but it's got that sort of satin sort of finish that is kind of not very forgiving. So yeah, I mean, it's up to you which one you like the best. So, for you guys, I hope that answers your question. Why is it important? Well, it's a £1,400 subwoofer, so I think it's important that it looks good all the time. Otherwise, you know, what's the point? It's got to look good. Anyway, next part of the review, design and initial impression.
Design and initial impression.
I have to say, the first time I took the KEF subwoofer out of the box, I was quite, you know, shocked at how heavy the thing feels. It's built like a tank, and you wouldn't expect it to weigh so much, especially considering the size. So it is very densely packed in there. So I'm just about to unbox the KEF KC62. So here I go. Oh God. So first impression, this thing's heavy. Much heavier than you would expect, actually. There's two drivers in here. So, and that hefty magnet system that they've put on. And here it is. Now, the SVS 3000 Micro, which I actually have behind me right now. There you go, I'm telling the truth. That subwoofer, by comparison, is a lot lighter. It's like a feather compared to the KC62. So whether that translates into better audio quality or not, that, you know, it's up for debate. Sometimes it is actually true. You know, the more stuff there is in something like a speaker or amplifier, it sometimes does translate into better audio quality, you know, better components, whatever. But proof is in the pudding. Let's see. Another thing I might add is actually the KC62 is a fair bit smaller than the 3000 micro by SVS. Going by the specs, looking at those specs, I was thinking that it was going to be just like that much on either side. But in real life, when you see it, it does look considerably smaller, even though looking at them on the floor now, it's not really, but yeah, it definitely is a slight size down. So if space is a big issue, the KC62 is the winner. Let's now move on to the setup section, which I think is really, really important.
Setup.
Now I think setting up this subwoofer, it's actually a doddle, I think. The controls at the back, they are very basic and very limited compared to what you will get from SVS. Now SVS, they don't really put, in this subwoofer here, there's barely any controls at the back, but you control it all via an app. So when you look at the app, there's a lot of options there. Now one example of that is the KC62 has a phase switch on the back. Now 1,400 pound subwoofer that's aiming at the audiophile, I would have thought that there might be more options to control your phase. We only have 0 and 180 degrees on the KC62, whereas on the 3000 micro you have a full 0 to 180 degrees adjustment. So you could, you know, you could do 52 degrees if you wanted to. So one thing to remember, guys, is that I am actually going to be making a KC62 versus a 3000 micro video shortly. Once I've heard the KC62 enough, and once I've heard the 3000 micro, that video will be coming out. So I know a lot of people, they're going to want to try and set this subwoofer up correctly. And I know that some people, probably most of the people watching this now, don't have any equipment, setup equipment like microphones. With the KEF KC62, I did it this way and it worked really nicely. And I'm going to tell you what I did now. Focus on the phase first. I wanted to get that right. So we only have two options, 0 and 180 degrees. Now what phase means, for those of you who don't know, it basically means, let's say for example, here's a woofer, here's a woofer. This is the speakers, that's the subwoofer. We want them going like that, essentially. If one was going out, one was going in, then what we'd have is we'd have certain frequencies cancel themselves out, and we don't want that. We want the subwoofer to add to the system. We don't want it to take away from the system. So that is why it's really important to get your phase done right. Now, if you want to do this by ear, then you can do it. What you can do, this is something I do a lot of the time, is basically drum kit. I think is a really good instrument to help you visualize and hear, you know, when a subwoofer is in phase or not. So load up a video of a drum kit, someone playing, you know, just a beat for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever, right? Just continuously on a loop. And watch the kick drum, okay? So when the kick drum is being, basically, once the stick hits the kick drum, the bass from the speakers and the subwoofer should be in sync. If they're not, then you might hear two things. One, it might be like the kick drum doesn't have an impact. So you're kind of like, where's the kick drum? And the alternative is that you might have like a bass that sounds, you might have a bass that sounds like it's kind of hanging, like it's hanging notes, if you know what I mean. So it's not quite in time. So if you load up a kick drum and actually you can see the guy, you know, playing the drum, whatever, you have a visual cue as well. And I find that helps me do it manually. And yeah, I've been quite successful in that approach. Now what you can do, just to double check that you are setting everything up correctly, is you should play this track back on your headphones. So these are just some headphones I've got. Make sure they're quite decent headphones, not over bass or anything like that. You know, these are HD 599s by Sennheiser. Just load that track up, put this on to monitor the audio so you have an understanding of the balance. So you know how it's meant to sound. It's not going to sound exactly the same through speakers compared to headphones, obviously, but that gives you an idea of what the balance is between all the frequencies. You put these on, you compare. You put these on, compare. Do it 3 or 4 times. Eventually, you will find a setting that works. And that, I think, is a way pretty much foolproof that you can get the subwoofer set up quite nicely, sorry, that's an adverb. Now, one more thing about the KC62 is that on the back you have presets, equalizer presets. You have 5. You have one called room, one called wall, one called corner, I think another one called cabinet, and another one called apartment. So you basically, this makes it easier for you to get the setup right. KEF has done that on purpose, because I don't think they have given you the tools to set it up completely perfectly. Now, as you can see, actually you can't see this, can you? No, you can't. Well, my subwoofer, or the KC62, is down there. It's near a corner. So it's not, but it is up against the wall. So I tried wall and corner. In fact, I tried all 5. When you put it on room, it's too bassy. Wall, it's a bit better. And I think corner for my setup was actually better. I am in quite a small room, about 10 meters squared, which works quite well with a KC62. But that means that because there's so much bass energy in here, there's a lot of echoes and all of that, that the corner setting, it trims that subwoofer gain down a little bit more, and I just think it works. So after I did this, I felt the KC62 was much better integrated in my setup, and I didn't feel the need to calibrate it with a microphone, and I still think it sounded very good. Now, for reference, what did I use? I used my Arcam, can you see that? My Arcam SA20 amplifier. It has some pre-outs on the back, so I fed that to the KC62. And I also used the Topping NX4 DAC. Now, on the back of the KC62, you are also able to put the RCA cables into the line in, and then separately line out to your speakers. I didn't do it this way because I wasn't really interested in using the KC62's high pass filter. I just used the low pass filter on the KC62 from my Arcam, and that's, I think, is a better way. You know, that's up for debate. A lot of people have debate on that, but I try to touch the audio as little as I possibly can.
Sound quality.
Moving on to the sound quality. The sound quality, I would say it was good. Yes, it does sound good. Now, I felt that as a subwoofer in a room like this, it was quite well integrated, especially this is quite a difficult room, this room for bass. Now, if you've blindfolded somebody and walked them in here, this is the test. Would they know that a subwoofer was playing? And I think, I mean, obviously I didn't try it scientifically, but I would say that it is actually quite stealthy, this subwoofer. You can barely hear it in action, but you do know that the bass doesn't sound like it's missing. It is good. You know, it is good. It's good at like doing a disappearing act, as it were. So yeah, I listen to a lot of Steely Dan, and I use this as my reference. A lot of live music, and you know, with live music, it's really easy to tell when, you know, a subwoofer is present, when it, you know, the certain bass frequencies don't sound correct. Now, I feel that nothing was out of place, and a part of me did want to at times run a parametric EQ and sort some of the problems out. I could have done that via my laptop. I could have done some EQ via my laptop just to sort that out, but to be honest with you, overall I was quite happy with the sound. I didn't feel the need to do that immediately. How it blended with my Monitor Audio Studios, I was quite happy with that. Another impressive thing about the KC62 was the bass extension. So I did a frequency sweep. Obviously I can only hear down to about 20 Hertz. The 11 Hertz figure, you know, I don't know who that really helps, but I kind of understand why they would put this into the spec sheet. But 20 Hertz and upwards, it did sound quite flat. So it was in this room genuinely hitting 20 Hertz, but it was at low to medium volume. It's a different test environment, isn't it? So if I put that in a big room and I put a movie on, that would be completely different. But the thing is, of course, the KEF KC62, it has to be better than other subwoofers that have similar specifications. So the only thing I can compare it to that's with me is the 3000 micro, and I'm going to be doing that in a later review. So If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe to catch that review. You like what I did there? Managed to get the old subscribe message into that. Anyway, let's move on to movies.
Movies.
So for movies, I tested this downstairs in my living room, and that's about 20 square meters or so. It's a medium-sized room by THX standards. And yeah, I would say it didn't have the potential that my XTZ, 1217 Edge has. Of course it doesn't. You know, it's a 12-inch subwoofer with ports. Of course it's not going to be as big as that. So for a micro subwoofer, it did well, you know, but it didn't satisfy me when it came to movies. And for that reason, I don't think it's that jack of all trades sub. If you go on the KEF website, they kind of advertise it like it is a jack of all trades sub. You know, like a David v Goliath scenario. You know, this is the David and it's going to slay the Goliath. And yeah, so my original videos that I made where I speculated, you know, I think I was kind of right on that. It hasn't surprised me when it comes to movies. Has it surprised me when it comes to music? I wouldn't say surprised. I knew it was going to be good, but I wouldn't say I'm surprised by it. It's hard, you know, when you listen to so many speakers and subwoofers over time, it is quite difficult to get surprised by a new product, because at the end of the day, most of it is the same technology. The KC62 is different, I have to say, because of its design. Now, I always play the same like test audio, so I can go by a reference, and there's a couple of scenes from Lord of the Rings, you know, one on the third movie towards the end of the disc, around midway. There's that, you know, when, I forgot the battle, I forgot what the name of it is called now. When they're bashing down that gate, forgot. I'll put it in the description if I can remember it. But yeah, there's that bit. That's got quite good bass. And then there's a scene in Interstellar. What's the scene? It's the black hole scene towards the end of the movie. And in the middle of the movie, there's the wormhole scene. You know, I've heard systems where the subwoofer is not quite up to it, or the complete opposite, where the subwoofer has a lot of power but it has no control. And I would say that it did an alright job, but as you'd expect, it's not gonna hit those plus 90 decibel bass frequencies that you really want in movies. So yeah, but in terms of the quality, yeah, the quality was good. So the question is, who would I recommend this subwoofer to? Well, at £1,400, I would say that it's a hard product to recommend, because as I said in my first review, it's just, I think, just a bit too expensive for what it is. If it were between £800 and £1,000, I would say the value would be better. I mean, still, you know, it would still be an expensive product. This is £1,400. Ideally, you would need two of these, so you can have room modes and all that accounted for in your room. The bass quality will really improve. However, buying this subwoofer won't be much of a problem if you have a lot of paper. Then maybe in that situation, it wouldn't matter so much to you. But for the price, I would expect it to be a lot better than the SVS 3000 Micro. We will see how much better it is than the 3000 Micro, if at all. And I expect the 3000 Micro will probably be better than the KC62 in a lot of areas. We'll have to find that out in later videos. So as a bonus for you guys, I have taken some time to record the KC62 with some, you know, various test music, some tracks. Now bear in mind, I am limited by what I can show you because of the YouTube platform and copyright. So click the link now to hear the KC62 in action with a variety of test music with the different settings shown and explained. So remember to wear some headphones when you use this, when you do this test, sorry, because, you know, for the best experience, I think that's vital. What do you guys think? Are you thinking of buying this subwoofer? I want to know. Leave it in the comments and I'll see you next time.
Now you subscribe or I smash you.